Operation Desert Storm happened 35 years ago.
Yeah, Thursday night, a Marine Corps veteran of that conflict will give a presentation as part of Veterans Memorial Hall's history in a Pint series.
Our Dave Anderson tells us the when and where.
35 years ago, Operation Desert Shield turned into Operation Desert Storm.
Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait.
My First Lieutenant, Tom Russell, came into my tent and he said, "Sir, the air wars happened."
Duluthian Mark Soul was a Marine Corps infantry major in January of 1991 as Desert Storm began. On Thursday, another Marine will lead the latest installment of Veteran Memorial Hall's history in a Pint series. Joel Turnipseed will read from his memoir, Baghdad Express.
It helps tell the story of that transition from civilian to active duty service member and then back to civilian life.
Wayne Ganaway of Veterans Memorial Hall is especially excited to hear Turnipseed's story. He was an Army military policeman in Desert Storm.
Enemy prisoner of war, guarding Iraqi prisoners, searching, doing searches, and then also doing law enforcement in Saudi Arabian cities.
VMH staff members hope this History in a Pint presentation convinces other vets to come forward and have their oral histories recorded for posterity. The Baghdad Express presentation is Thursday night at 5:30 p.m. in the Train Museum at the Depot. It's free and open to everyone. In Duluth, Dave Anderson, Northern News Now.